All right. Hey, well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the July edition of the Food AI Collab. And I couldn't be more excited to be here with Matteo Favilli, Senior Consultant for Deloitte's Innovation and Ventures Arm. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for hosting me.
Of course, it's great to be here. And we're going to talk today about AI and the future of work and how AI is changing the nature of work. And no doubt, sometimes when you're talking or hearing someone talk about a new technology, it almost seems abstract. And I remember the era, for example, cloud computing, and I thought, well, that's really interesting to hear about cloud architectures, et cetera. But when you talk about I don't think there's probably anyone in the audience or just anyone you bump into on a daily basis who hasn't felt the impact of how AI is changing their lives, how they react to the world, and in particular, how they work. It's certainly taking hold in industries across the world and every type of industry, no matter the type of job. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And that's something that you look at a lot. Before we get into it, maybe you could just briefly give everyone today listening in a quick backgrounder on you and how you're kind of studying AI for your research practices.
Of course. Thank you, Michael. So I work for Deloitte Innovation and Venture, Deloitte Italy, and we collaborate both with corporates and startups working with technologies, and we make them collaborating around specific innovation projects. And of course, given that AI is so widespread right now, an emerging tech we are working with is becoming key in our practice on our day by day. So we are researching, we are studying, we are supporting companies to integrate new technologies as well as startups to scale this new AI paradigm. And that's what I do for my job.
Great. Well, yeah. And by the way, if you are listening in and you want to post a question, feel free to drop them in the side comments. Welcome, Mary. Mary just said hello. I'm dialing in from Seattle. You're in Italy today. Where in Italy? Are you in Milan? Where are you at?
Yes, now I'm in Tuscany, but
Tuscany.
in Tuscany, yes, but I'm based in Milan.
Okay,
So
great.
we usually work with companies in Milan, Rome, in Europe, whatever it takes.
Well, this is going to be a fun conversation, and I'm going to jump into it. And so, one of the things that I think I've seen interestingly with this new technology of AI is it's taken hold in uh, a number of different industries, almost every single industry, and it's evolving really fast. The speed at which things are changing is moving really quickly. So, how would you say, if you're thinking about this, Matteo, AI adoption has evolved across industries over the past 3 to 5 years?
I think we have seen, and I'm sure everyone would agree, we have seen a strong rise in concrete AI application across pretty all industries. I like to sometimes to quote Andrew Ng, which is the co-founder of Coursera and founder of Deep Learning AI, which he continues to say that AI is the new electricity. He said that just as electricity transformed almost everything 100 years ago, now AI is transforming pretty all industry, and there won't be any industry will be not impacted by AI over the next several years, as well as in the long term. Just to tell you, we have seen over the past 3 to 5 years, AI adoption that has moved from being something in R&D department and R&D initiative, a long-term innovation initiative, to an imperative for corporates, for the one we work with, but also for the general industry. So now generative AI is no longer a strategic objective, a long-term innovation of corporates, but is essentially something to be deployed right now, something that if you don't address right now, if you don't understand it and you take action to deploy it and to adopt in your company, you will be left behind. So we had also some data about it. We interviewed some C-level across the world last year, and we found out that over 1,000 of C-level that we interviewed, 75% of them told us that they are now piloting and scaling already generative AI tools across the whole organization. So it's an horizontal expansion across all the sector. No sector is left behind now.
Was there any particular industries or sectors that you saw more pronounced adoption, or was it pretty evenly distributed?
I would say the very amazing thing is that there is no industry that is left behind. From sustainability to biodiversity to food tech and life science. If I might have an opinion about this, I saw so many impacts being in the life science and in the food tech industry. It seems that they are being the most impacted industry because there is so much that AI and particularly generative AI can do for these industries. There are so many nice use cases that we can talk about that this is becoming really interesting to watch and to collaborate in.
I was talking yesterday with a leader of a company that has been around almost 9 years, and their product is very centered around artificial intelligence. And he was explaining how there's essentially two phases to the company. The first phase was his product was built around more traditional artificial intelligence like deep learning and machine learning, and that really was a product that they sold into the market and did very well. But they've now hit a new wave of their product that has been accelerated in terms of the capabilities through the arrival of generative AI, and they're tapping into the power of large language models from the likes of OpenAI and Google, for example. Have you seen a particularly pronounced kind of acceleration of adoption of artificial intelligence with the rise of generative AI? And by that, I mean the new large language models in particular that we've all become familiar with, like ChatGPT, et cetera?
Yes, we have seen for sure a general maturity in the adoption of generative AI. While some years ago, in 2019, as I told you, was something that was in the R&D department, so they were testing, they were using let's call it traditional AI, even if it seems a paradox. They were using the traditional AI, the machine learning, mainly to do pilots about data interpretation, data prediction. Right now, with generative AI, we are going to a totally different level. We are starting to see pilots becoming real products, also from traditional markets. And if I may see three main types of AI tools that now you can for sure find in corporate environments, you have for sure the built-in AI in everyday tools like the traditional Microsoft Copilot. You have AI platform like ChatGPT, which we all use and many companies use and integrate through API. But also, and that's the key trend I'm starting to see, is that companies are starting to realize that is essentially key strategic to have a private large language model trained on their specific industry, trained on their specific technicalities and specific business focus. Because in this way, they can try their own and develop their own AI models. They can maintain the ownership of their specific data, and we see that this in life science, especially for pharma companies and food companies, is very essential. And then they can really innovate in ways that were impossible before. So they like developing private large language models is now the key trend in the industry, now the key trend in corporate environments.
Yeah, we've certainly seen Kraft Heinz, Mars, Coca-Cola all make news and kind of announce that they're essentially developing their own large language models, or kind of training a large language model that is kind of separate, maybe leveraging OpenAI's technology, but keeping it kind of separate to them. Um, what about agentic AI? One of the things that I've seen the new Coca-Cola talk about over the past 6 months is like they're really kind of entering the agentic AI world. Have you seen that kind of accelerate in terms of people are saying, hey, let's leverage agents to essentially do very specific roles really well to help functional roles within our company?
Exactly. In fact, according to Deloitte research, we are expecting by the next 2 years, 2026, 2027, to have 1 out of 4 companies that we use these agents every day. So we are moving so fast from basic prompts to these AI agents that can own a task. So they can proactively, let's call sense, observe what's inside. For example, they can understand the situation, create a report, send it to your team, and update your dashboard automatically. So what we are seeing is that even if generative AI was already such a big innovation, agentic AI is the next level of innovation, is something that everyone now is investing into. A lot of venture capital we talk with, I was talking with one of the biggest venture capital in Italy some days ago. They are looking for AI agents and specifically AI agents that can automate and be cross-functional and cross-industry. For example, AI agents that can take ownership of all the supply and the controlling part of corporates, no matter the sectors. So it's not even about one specific industry right now. It's about the specific value that it can provide to a department, to an area of a company cross-industry.
That's great. Let's talk a little bit about how AI is actually changing and transforming organizations. We talked, kind of hinted at it, but I saw an interesting article this week in Axios, which is a widely read publication here in the U.S. and more broadly. And it was interesting in this. I think the headline was "Middle Managers Are Going Away," and then here's a specific article with the specific chart. And what's interesting is they said because of the adoption of AI in companies, and it's across different industries, across different sectors, the number of people under bosses on average has doubled over the past 5 years. Essentially, what that means is essentially middle managers or bosses with bosses, they say, are starting to kind of go away, almost become a thing of the past. Now this is maybe a little bit of a provocative headline or take from a publication. I don't necessarily think that middle managers are completely going away, but I definitely think that as people become more productive and you can start to assign certain functional roles to agents, for example, you will likely see people just taking more responsibility for more tasks, kind of managing a bunch of different agents, and then you wouldn't necessarily need as many middle managers. Are you seeing this happening? Are you seeing the structure of companies changing maybe because of the rise of AI and, for example, the middle manager going away?
Yes, of course, it's a big trend. For sure, that article is a bit provocative, but it's based on something that is happening. There are some trends and some shifts in the workplace right now that there were never before. The thing you were referring to is probably the AI gap zone. So middle management is finding himself in a position in which they are not early careers, maybe, so they are not using generative AI tools since day one. So they tend to be less expert from compared to early career employees. But on the other side, they are not even, let's say, the top management. They are not even people that have been in the industry for 20, 30 years. So they don't have the domain knowledge, which is, let's say, protecting higher levels from the disruption that such a technology is causing in the workplace. So they are kind of in a situation where we call AI gap zone, in which they are risking to have their role, let's say, not cancelled, but eroded. So are being partially automated, some roles of the middle management, but also there is kind of a skill redundancy, because if AI can perform core tasks better, faster, with more quality, professionals are risking and they need to shift toward orchestration, judgment, to more leadership role as fast as possible. So the key for organization right now is to be able to understand what's going on, but also reskill the middle management as AI mentors, not position them as liabilities inside the company. And that's why these middle managers are, let's say, fleeing from companies.
Real quickly, welcome to Salvatore. He says, greetings from Startup Grind and Pisa Luca. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Again, anyone who has questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. That's so interesting. It feels like there's this almost paradox, right? Where, the younger folks may be more adept with tools like AI, just kind of, they're more digitally fluent oftentimes than maybe, for example, baby boomers and some folks within the Generation X side. But like you said, there's so much institutional knowledge, so much information that you've built up over time But it does seem to me that there is a threat of over time that a lot of this institutional knowledge will be subsumed and kind of taken into these large language models. And um, it's funny, I've seen like restaurants start to use tools like, hey, let's use a kind of an app that basically can create someone that could be essentially a wine expert on demand, even though they haven't had the years of decades of training to understand wine. They can have this app in their hand, and then they almost seem like a really professional sommelier. So it does seem like there's a danger for people later in their careers to see this institutional and kind of industry related knowledge to just be sucked up by AI tools, and then younger people at lower salaries can come in and follow them and use these tools more fluently.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is very significant in organizations right now. Like every organization we talk with, for sure, is experiencing the same pattern. In fact, for this reason, Deloitte conducted a survey, research last year, interviewing more than 2,000 employees across the world through different generations. What we found out is astonishing, because we saw that for sure, 83% of early career workers use Gen AI tools weekly, compared to 60% of more experienced professionals. So there is more use of these tools by early career workers. Moreover, young employees tend to be more optimistic and excited about generative AI tools, and so they are more prone to learn these new AI tools compared to experienced worker. In fact, we have seen that older professionals often tend to expect structured training. They worry more about job displacement, and they are also slower into adapt, and being flexible around these tools, even because these tools at the beginning felt, let's say, unproven, unregulated. So more experienced employees felt the way to have them more structured before starting to learn. And this is crazy. But another very interesting data that we found out is that even if early career employees are more comfortable with these tools, they feel that their career can be empowered, they can be accelerated, enabled by generative AI. What we are seeing is that at the same time, they're experiencing a sort of anxiety. They feel threat as well, because since AI is replacing some basic tasks, which usually are related to entry-level tasks, these early career employees felt that they're not building some foundational skills, some skills which for us that we have been in this from quite a bit could be normal, like synthesizing, sending an emails without using ChatGPT, making a summary, creating a report, and interpreting data without a generative AI tool. So they fear that AI is replacing these entry-level tasks, so they won't be able over the long term to build some foundational skills and to give them, let's say, a strong, solid background in the long term. So that's kind of a paradox, because on one side they're more optimistic on AI, generative AI, and their future career. On the other side, they still have a fear that this is going to impact their career. Does it
It's
make sense to
interesting.
you, Michael?
Yeah, it does make sense. It does make
Mm-hmm.
sense. And I think it is oftentimes we think of like these entry level jobs that can be very quickly be taken over by AI and automation. But what's interesting, so long here in the US, the advice people were given to young people in high school and college was to go into STEM related careers. Hey, if you were going to go and get a degree in computer science, for example, you're just essentially ensuring yourself a long and lucrative potential career because that's where the future was. But now I think some people are wondering if that's even the case anymore. And we've seen like a little more kind of pushed in a career advice towards young people to say, hey, take types of jobs or move towards careers that can't be taken over by AI, like trades. So like there's been a renaissance or kind of a push towards people who are young to maybe learn a trade, like be an electrician, for example, or something like that, that can't necessarily be replaced by an AI. Can you talk a little bit about how AI may be eating up some of these jobs like computer science that have long been seen as potential lucrative potential careers for young people to go into, and whether or not that is going to change the advice we give young people when they're looking at their future and their careers.
Yeah, that's for sure a big challenge. We have seen as well a big push for jobs which cannot be replaced by, apparently, let's say, by AI, which are more traditional jobs as well. So electricity. So there was kind of a perception in general that now AI will be able to replace every kind of job, but that's a mismatch of what is what the reality looks really like, because the problem is not that AI is coming for replacing all the job. The problem is that if workers, especially the more experienced one, but as well as the early career, they if they don't adapt, if they don't study, if they don't understand what this technology is bringing to our society, for sure they're gonna be impacted. So if we talk about also which are some skills that early careers right now they want to build, most of them answer with skills that were never seen before for the impact that might have, which could be creativity, emotional intelligence, collaboration, AI literacy, leadership, strategic thinking. So critical thinking, adaptability. This is something that every company is now really valuing, even because AI tools can change. We know that like literally we are being bombed by like every day by different new AI tools, but the ability to stay flexible, the ability to understand, the curiosity, and to being adaptable in front of new changes is something that cannot be replaced by AI. So we need to be able to put ourselves in a position, especially for people that are young, in which we are empowered by generative AI, especially by agents AI and generative AI tools, instead of being threatened by them. And the only way to do that is to really to focus on collaboration, to be always ready to learn new skills, and being able to be AI literate. So understand what is AI and what we can do with AI, especially when talking about a new job.
Yeah, I do agree. I do think though, I mean, we just see constant over the past year layoffs at Microsoft, and there's an article this week in the Seattle Times about how part of that is driven by their new attitude around AI, and they don't necessarily need to have all these junior coders because a lot of the kind of the tasks, the kind of the mainer, kind of a lot of the smaller coding jobs can be done by AI tools. So that's really interesting. Let's move on. I want to talk a little bit about physical AI and kind of the physical AI movement and define what that is. At CES this year, I go every year. And one of the big trends was the CEO of NVIDIA was talking about how he proclaimed the arrival of physical AI was here. Essentially, kind of, we've all become familiar with large language models to do things like create uh, proposals or do text, for example. But now we're starting to see this technology to evolve and become more multimodal and allow for more intelligent robotics, for example, and automation. And so, can you define what you're seeing in the physical AI space?
Yeah, let's start saying that physical AI is in the end about bringing cognition to the physical world. So it's like applying, just for the people that are listening, it's applying AI to machines that interact with us, with the physical world. So it could be robots, it could be drones, it could be autonomous vehicles, but also embedded systems that can move, understand, manipulate, adapt, understand what's going on in real life. So it's the new frontier to have, let's say, this called digital intelligence meeting a physical action. And this is a new trend and is revolutionizing also information processing and language, even because this physical AI sees what like the best of robots with the best of AI. So we have now systems that can interpret complex environment in real time. They can make autonomous decisions. It's like having an AI agent, but in real life. And a robot that can collaborate with humans, showing sometimes not only ability to adapt and to collaborate with a human. I'm thinking about like the new cobots that are being implemented in manufacturing companies, but also robots that show, let's say, empathy, emotional intelligence, that can understand in the end what's the real meaning of a facial expression, which is something that we never thought that it was possible. But now there are lots and lots of new pilots about robots which can, let's say, interpret facial emotions and of people and react accordingly. So I'm seeing the physical AI movement as something that is really growing, as something that will be part of our life soon. And if we want to enter like in a specific use case about it, I am just coming back from let's say a lesson, a course that I provided to some researchers in the biodiversity space. And we have seen, and I was telling them how much this physical AI movement is becoming key in the sustainability and into the biodiversity. I'll give you an example. Recently, the Italian Institute of Technology have developed a robot, which is AI-driven robot in the end, which is a worm that can go and crawl inside soils, understand what is the soil composition, the chemicals which are in the soil, what's going on, monitoring how seeds are growing, and can provide real-time interpreted data to the organization and to the companies that they are using it. In this way, this worm is preventing deforestation, is preventing excessive usage of soils, and especially in countries like Italy, in which we have this kind of desertification of specific areas, this could be really an innovation that will change forever the way that we preserve our nature and our biodiversity. So mixing a robot like a worm with the latest technologies when it comes to robotics, with AI and generative AI system that can be miniaturized and inserted inside these robots, can really make a difference. And for sure, it's going to be the future of our technology.
So the term cobots has been thrown around a lot over the past 5 years. This idea that robots won't necessarily replace us in all instances. I certainly think that automation will replace some jobs for sure, but certainly in a lot of cases you might be, as a worker, working alongside a robot, or essentially leveraging the power of a robot to give you superpowers at your job. So what are you seeing in terms of how we're changing the training of people and adapting processes to allow workers to work alongside robotics, particularly robotics powered by new capabilities that AI may bring? Talk about that evolution and maybe how that's going to play out over the next 4 to 5 years.
I would say the next 4 to 5 years will be key, because we're gonna see so many new pilots, so many new experiments that will be run in order to make robots and humans collaborating together. I would say that the future of work will not be robot versus human, but for sure it's gonna be robot with human. So let's say the future of work will include humans and robots working together as a team. So we'll see for sure a growing adoption of cobots that will become common and more common. These are safe robots that will work side by side with people, and they will help them, for example, with jobs like lifting, sorting, assembling, without needing to be behind fences. And we have seen these cobots increasing a lot. We are seeing startups collaborating with big industry, big brands, in order to create a comprehensive system in which there is generative AI and AI monitoring the whole industrial processes, and cobots reacting and being deployed and being controlled by a generative AI comprehensive central system to help both workers in the factory and quality control people behind, to ensure that everything goes perfectly and is very efficient. Then we will see for sure an easy communication between these cobots and humans, even because to talk with this cobot, to talk with this robot, we don't need anymore to use code. Okay, we just need to talk to them. Thanks to the large language models, we can easily communicate fluent gestures, even eye movement, words. Then this will make robots easier to use in places like factories or firms that were, let's say, showing obstacles before. And then another let's say driver that will help this collaboration between robot and humans will be for sure the fact that robots are learning by watching humans, because that's AI. That's what AI is enabling in robots. So new robots will be able for sure to learn by seeing how current employees do things. So instead of a long programming with a lot of coders and a lot of years and a lot of efforts, you will just show the robot what to do, and it will immediately learn, which is something that sounds sci-fi, but is what is going to happen in the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. I think there's some research put out by the Google AI team about how they would simply show a video of moving around a house or an office environment, and that video can then train a robot essentially through kind of multimodal interpretation of this video to really understand the space well. At CES this year, we saw some essentially exoskeletons, so people basically being able to get within a robot suit and move around and do their job. That's crazy and very
That's
science
crazy.
fiction. It almost seems like a superhero type of application, but I can see the rise of that for sure coming. And then you talk about the way to how we're interfacing with robots is increasingly accelerating. And so we've all become familiar with human language interfaces like Alexa or these other tools, and using that to basically give verbal kind of natural language commands. But I also think the rise of things like augmented reality and virtual reality is a way to kind of command and control robots. I can see that becoming more and more important as well.
Yeah, the real value stands when there is a mix of technologies, and the players that will be able to find the exact match, the exact point in which they can mix robot and generative AI will be the one dominating the market in the future.
Talk a little bit about maybe how startups and large companies are collaborating. Certainly, I've seen in the world of food companies like Kraft Heinz, maybe one of the biggest food companies in North America, partnering up with startups like Notco, for example, because Notco has made a name for themselves with their AI named Giuseppe, Italian name, that helps them develop new recipes. We've seen other examples of big food brands partnering with startups. Are you seeing this collaboration? I definitely think oftentimes big companies feel or think they don't necessarily have the internal capabilities, or they haven't necessarily developed that muscle. So they need to do some collaboration, maybe even acquire startups to kind of build that capabilities. What are you seeing there?
Total investments are for sure rising, but the collaboration between big corporates and startups is something that started already a decade ago, for sure. It's something that has always been there on multiple things, but for sure is going to be even more key when we talk about AI. In fact, big corporates are the one providing funding, providing regulatory experience, providing global scales, clients, system that are already set to produce. Startups instead are the player which, let's say, in the open innovation theory, is bringing speed, novel technologies, risk appetite, let's say, niche solution that for sure can be leveraged by corporates. So if it was something that was already present a decade ago, this straight collaboration between corporates and startup, for sure this is gonna accelerate with the generative AI. I can give you different examples that we are seeing, for example, in the life science. In the life science, I'm sure I'm sure you know about big pharma like AstraZeneca collaborating with Benevolent AI, which is an AI startup that is always looking for, let's say, new drugs through an AI platform. We have seen Sanofi collaborating with Takemia. We have seen BioNTech collaborating with Istadip, Merck with In Silico Medicine. In Silico Medicine is really making a point in the industry. In fact, they're using generative AI to accelerate drug discovery through a proprietary platform, which is able to integrate generative chemistry, target discovery, and clinical trial prediction all together in a single platform. This is really key because it reduces the time and the cost that is usually required to bring a new drug to the market, which is, let's say, the biggest challenge of pharma companies. So by showing this collaboration between high-tech startups, deep tech startups, and big corporates, pharma in this case, but big companies in general are finding extreme value from this collaboration. And this is something that is going to accelerate in the future, especially in the next 3 to 5 years.
One of the things I've noticed, I've been following tech for a long time, is every time a new technology comes along, if it's a big enough one, you see a lot of startups jumping on the trend, and they maybe just, I mean, it's just natural to, as your startup, you're always looking for your next funding round, for example. And the easiest way to do that over the past couple of years has no doubt been to put AI on your pitch deck. And so, but I think that leads to a lot of hype. And also, if you're a big company who's looking to partner, you need to have fluency. You need to have someone who can really understand and sift through all these claims that you're getting from these companies who want to partner with you. So, can you talk about that? Maybe how the role of the CTO or the C-suite has changed as they look to adapt and look for partners in the AI era? Do they have do they need a chief AI officer, for example, on board to really discern and kind of sift through all the claims of these potential partners?
Yes, first, I agree with the fact that, of course, startups looking for rounds, looking always to raise money, are using now AI as a buzzword. It seems that every startup in the past that was using different technologies is now trying, let's say, to sell the story that they're using AI, while sometimes it's just a way to try to intercept, the new trend among venture capitals, which of course are focusing on generative AI. The CTO, which was already key in startups in the past, is now becoming even more important. I don't know if they're going to be in the future a chief AI officer, but I've seen a couple of them like recently. Instead of calling themselves CTO, they're calling chief AI officer, because this for sure is helping the whole startup to be more credited in front of venture capital. Having said that, let's say venture capitals as well are going through a shift. They are the one sometimes in need for new generative AI skills to better understand the startup. So it's not only a shift that is entering the startup world, but it's a shift that is entering the venture capital world. So being able to understand if the CTO that you have in front is someone that can really understand the right model that a startup can have is becoming key and is preventing venture capital, let's say, to waste money and to make the wrong investment. So I would say it's becoming essential to have, let's say, a chief artificial intelligence officer, yes, but also on the venture capital side, it's becoming essential to have some kind of not only AI literary, but some kind of core AI competencies to drive the decision making when it comes to investment. I don't know if it makes sense to you, this.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little about, again, one more time, people younger in their careers and kind of entering, kind of being career prepared. What skills would you recommend? I mean, how would you recommend they prepare for this kind of era? No doubt that AI is going to be more and more important ever to their jobs. Is it just learning to be prompt engineers? Is it just kind of understanding how they can leverage these tools? What advice would you give young folks early in their careers?
Yeah, Michael, I'm telling you that when we see also our clients or we we directly we interview, let's say, young graduates. I would say that there is always a question of if and how they are able to use some kind of Gen AI tools. That's becoming key in interviews as well for young graduates, because let's say that if, for example, in consulting, the ability to use some generative AI tools and to understand, to be AI literate is like using PowerPoints or like using Excel right now. So you cannot, let's say, show off to an interview, especially in tech, but also in non-tech corporates, without knowing a bit about what is AI, what is AI doing, and what are the, let's say, key AI tools. Having said that, I would say there are some top Gen AI skills for new graduates. I would recommend for sure, but this sounds kind of obvious, prompt engineering. So there is a whole science behind prompt engineering. There are so many courses that you can take online as well. So is the ability, of course, to craft precise, context-aware prompts in order to receive the perfect answer that you are looking for. About this, we have, as I told you, 65% of early career professionals use Gen AI tools weekly. But we also found out that 1 out of 10 feel really confident in their prompting skills. And that's a gap that for sure will need to be closed by organization. Other skills, for sure, is the AI literacy, the critical thinking, understanding how Gen AI works, the limitation, the ethical implication of using the generative AI. But critical thinking is something that should be very important, because as we all know, generative AI tools like ChatGPT usually, let's say now less, but usually they experience hallucinations. So if you're not able to read something that a tool like ChatGPT gives you and understand that probably is completely wrong, or double check the sources or control the quality of what you received, you won't be able to effectively use such power that you can have in your hands. So that's key. And as I was telling you, also I usually teach to some researchers and to some students as well in some programs that we have to educate about artificial intelligence. And it's concerning to see how many students, which will be future workers, would use passively generative AI tools like ChatGPT. So just input, they give an input, they take the text and they use it for an exam, they use it for a presentation.
Yeah.
That is something very wrong. And we should educate them and raise awareness about them. And then I would say the last skills that for sure you need to have to be, let's say, competing in the workplace as of now is the data literacy. So interpreting, questioning, working with data is something that is essential now and will always be essential. No matters the AI tools that will be available. You should be really able to interpret it and be literate about data and understand what a certain data means and how you can communicate it and present it to people.
Yeah. There's no doubt a crisis, or kind of a big kind of dilemma that the world of education is thinking through, is like, because like there's an article today I saw with the headline, "Is it the end of homework?" Because students are using ChatGPT to essentially do their homework. There's no doubt that we've seen even political people in the highest office in the U.S. embarrass themselves because they basically took the output from a large language model and submitted it as like a court brief. So you definitely need to have that capability to discern. You can't just skip the work and use ChatGPT to do all your work for you. And I think I would also think it's interesting to, maybe if you're young or just in your mid-career, to try to use an AI tool to work through a project that you haven't done before, like create your own software program. Like people are doing it's called vibe coding, but like if you're not a computer science major, you can actually maybe try to create an app using AI and see what that does as an experiment. I think that'd be interesting. That's maybe something people should try as well.
Totally, and also something that people should try as well sometimes, especially people or workers or students that heavily use the generative AI. What we are trying to research to understand if can have a potential impact, especially to maintain, let's say, your brain more active if you use too much this kind of tools, is to try to cut yourself for the day, like let's say 15 to 30 minutes per day in which you don't use any kind of technology, but you just try to brainstorm, you just try to solve problems without accessing like generative AI tools. We are trying to understand if this can help to manage such technology in a better way. So to have like some off time from generative AI. That's something that it might be helpful because really, Michael, is something the education is very impacted. It's something that we're going to see in the next 10 to 15 years. We're going to see students going to the workplace without probably having tried to do something without ChatGPT, without generative AI tools. So we need to educate, we need to raise awareness on this as much as we can in order to avoid big consequences or to avoid to have a generation, including ourselves, I would say, which is totally dependent on a technology, which is something should be avoided for sure.
I was in Italy in May. We went and visited the Vatican. We had a conference at the Vatican. We were invited there to
Nice.
kind of talk about and think through how AI is impacting the world of food. I was there with Sarah Reversi, who's our partner with the Future Food Institute in this Food AI collab. So it's an honor to be there, and a great time to be, an interesting time to be there is actually during conclave, which is kind of crazy to be there during that time. But one of the key things that I think we were working through and talking a lot about was what it means to be human, what it means to be, what it means to our own human value and our identity in the era of AI. And so, how do you see AI influencing not just jobs, but like identity, our sense of purpose, and our human value in work? Is there potential that that gets devalued and something we need to guard against the devaluation of humans and human purpose in work?
Yeah, I agree. That's another big challenge that we need to think about when dealing with this technology, because I think AI is changing what people do at work. Yes, for sure, we're seeing. We talk about it for the last 50 minutes, but also generative AI is starting to change how people feel about their work and feel about themselves, their competencies, and is also impacting in some kind of way their self-esteem, especially for those roles which I would say sometimes are the tech roles, which are the most impacted by generative AI. So we have seen some people, some employees that might feel more empowered because they spend less time on boring tasks, they have more time for creative strategic thinking, they feel more productive, they do things faster. But on the other side, and that's the, let's say, a human dilemma that we will need to study, understand, and address, people might feel disconnected. Because sometimes people, especially while working, which is something that sometimes is our day, they are just checking what AI does. Their role becomes less clear to the organization. They feel less important for this reason, or they worry and they can ask themselves, "What am I here for? If AI can do my job?" So I would say that AI shouldn't take away people's meaning at work. It should be, as I said at the beginning, something that empower people, that support them to do more, to do better, and to do more of what they enjoy, of course, and less of repetitive, boring tasks that can drain you while working. But to do this, we need a very big paradigm shift. We need companies to start to think not only about efficiency, so which Gen AI tool can I adopt to improve efficiency, to be more productive, to sell more, to reduce costs, but also about motivation and human connection. We need companies to do this big shift, even because this is not just about, let's say, being more human when we talk about such a disruptive technology, but this is also about maintaining and creating, nurturing, fostering the talent pool of the future in order to maintain what the value, in order to maintain the connection that you need to experience while working. If we will not see a paradigm shift over the next years, and companies will only focus on productivity and efficiency and implementing GenAI tools without thinking about the human side of this technology, I'm sure we will be in trouble. we'll be in trouble, because we will have a generation of talents which will feel less motivated. That will not find the meaning of what they do, and this will be very bad for the future.
I think that's great words to kind of wrap up on. I think it's important and kind of incumbent upon leaders and organizations to really think about human value and kind of paying attention to that. We have a whole generation of young workers that sometimes are feeling lost and kind of like looking for meaning in because society is changing so fast, for example. So I think that's important. So, Matteo, I put your LinkedIn link in the chat there. So people, I would encourage you to connect with Matteo. Any other ways in which people can find you?
I would say I can leave my email as well. If someone wants to reach out, I can put it in the chat. I can give you my personal email as well, so it's totally fine. I'm open to have a discussion, 30 minutes talk always. So whoever wants to reach out, I'm very happy about it.
Great. Well, yeah, I see your email there. People want to connect with Matteo directly, either via email or on LinkedIn. I encourage you to do that. This has been a really interesting and inspiring conversation. I just want to and Andiono Ruizga. I hope I'm not mispronouncing his name. He completely agrees with the way in which the job market is now. There's so much uncertainty already. I think it just kind of echoes what we've been talking about, Matteo. Like there's just a lot of uncertainty. So it's exciting, these tools, but I think there's across generations, across worker type, there's a lot of anxiety about what it means for us because we're all learning on the fly, essentially.
Of course, and still is uncertain to understand exactly the balance between the benefits and the risk that we're going to see in the next 5 to 10 years. So we need to be, let's say, flexible. You need to be adaptable to changing environments, to technology. You need to always to be, let's say, curious and try to understand what is causing, what is this technology, what is doing. Always, let's say, be aware of what could be both the benefits and the risk. There is no technology that bring only benefits, and there is no technology that bring only risk. You just need to find your sweet spot among the benefits and the risk, and push, let's say, toward your personal success, if we want to put it in this way, in these terms.
Great words to close on. Stay curious, keep improving and learning. I think that's a great final message. So thank you, Matteo. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we will we'll be following up with more information about our next one soon. But everyone, have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.